Hey guys, we're outside today, and it is cold as... Just kidding! Hello everyone, welcome back to Digital Revolution 2011. This year we're going to be taking the show in a whole new direction. We're going to be focusing more on photography and less on videography and filmography, whatever you want to call it. Because photography is something that I have more experience in, and I enjoy it a lot more. But we're not going to stop videography. We'll be back with that in a few months. This week we're going to be talking about exposure. We're going to be talking about long exposures. We're going to be talking about indoor photography and low light photography. Should be fun. Long exposure photography is basically using a long shutter speed in a dark situation to create light streaks or intricate designs. You'll see what I mean in a minute. To do long exposure photography, you need to turn your ISO down to at least 100 and your shutter speed down to at least 15 seconds. I sometimes do more depending on if it's at night or if it's just in a really dark room. The combination of a low ISO and a long shutter speed will ensure proper exposure, and you may need to play around with it a little bit. Long exposure photography is used in the nighttime setting to make it look almost daytime-like. Leaving the shutter open for extended periods of time when sitting on a tripod can create such interesting effects, like this photo right here. As you can see, the cars create an interesting light streak across the roads. It makes it look just super cool. Now we're going to be talking about light painting. Light painting is essentially going in a dark room and using a flashlight or any other light source and drawing an image while the shutter is open. This will make it look like the light is floating in the air, creating intricate designs. Now we're going to demonstrate how to do light paintings. So we're going to turn off all the lights. Can you get that light? Thank you. Turn it off. And all you need is a flashlight or a light source. And what you're going to want to do is set your camera so that the shutter speed is really long, the ISO is really low, and the aperture is at its smallest. And after some experimenting, it should look like this. And that's what it can look like. Now here's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to go make your own light paintings, make them into a video slideshow, and post them as a video response. I'd really like to see some of them. Now we're going to be taking the camera off the tripod and showing you how to take photos indoors, where the lighting can't always be so bright. So we are right here in this room. As you can see, the image is pretty dark. This room is not very well lit. The only light source is that crappy little light up there, but you can't see it. So now when shooting indoors, you want to have the fastest shutter speed possible, the semi-lowest ISO possible, and a wide aperture, depending on how much depth of field you want. Try not to make the ISO go above 1600 because that's when it can start to get ugly. Take a look at these examples. This photo was shot at ISO 1600. Look at that noise. Ugh. Now we're going to be moving up to 3200. Look at that noise. Oh my God. And now here's the high setting, and as you can see, it creates this terrible, terrible, unusable image. When shooting indoors, you want to have a high aperture, which is why I usually use my Canon 50 prime 1.8 lens. The aperture opens up so wide, and I can turn the ISO down so the image is actually usable. We are now shooting with the 50 prime. As you can see, it probably looks better because we're shooting on a lower ISO. That's because the lens we were using, the biggest aperture is 5.6, whereas on the 50 prime, the biggest aperture is 1.8, and it lets in a whole lot more light, so it's ideal for indoor shooting. Now we're going to go over to the other side of the room and we'll take a look at low light photography. Well, now we switch back to the kit lens. The aperture is set at 5.6, and the ISO is a deadly 6400. The grain is terrible in this image, and that's why we need a tripod. If you're at your biggest aperture and your ISO is already too high and you can't find any more light, you're gonna have to go the way of auto, which is terrible. So the ideal thing would be to get lights, but if you can't, you're always going to want to use a tripod, put it on auto mode, and just take your picture and have the subject stand as still as possible. Well, that concludes our episode all about exposure. And before we go, we have a special announcement. We are going to be selling a Nikon D3000. It's going to be $450, and you can check out details in the description. This is a great camera. It provides everything that was included when it was bought, including all software, the camera body, and an 18 to 55 millimeter lens. So for all of you beginner photographers who are looking for a good camera, you should get this. Look in the description for more details. And remember to go like our Facebook page, which is also in the description. Well, guys, I'll see you next week with a brand new episode of, oh my god, who are you? Who are you?